7. It's orientation day. Did you remember what I and Sean mentioned on the orientation day? We talked about events, rules, nationalities of students, and the university facilities. In this lesson, we're going to review and learn some structures we possibly use to talk about those things. Let's have a look at them. First, we'll spend some time revising modal verbs and relative pronouns, which, who, and that. Then, we're going to learn about nationality adjectives and relative pronouns when and where. When it comes to uni life, especially learning in a foreign environment, many freshers at first will be worried and have a lot of questions in mind. What rules do I have to follow? What mustn't I do? What should I do if I can't make any friends? How should I introduce myself to friends who come from other regions of the world? Did you notice that I used a lot of modal verbs? You see, modal verbs are very important and we use them almost in every conversation. Did we use them all correctly? Now, let's have a look at a small part in a friend's email about her orientation day.
Dear Katie, how's it going? I hope you're doing great. I went to the orientation for freshers today. It was awesome. I made some new friends and got to know about university life. It seems like I don't have to attend many classes. Still, I must study hard because they are all new and difficult. The schedule is flexible because there's no rule saying that I have to learn all day long. If I choose to study 4 subjects for a semester, I only need to go to class 4 mornings per week and have weekday afternoons all free. That's why a senior student I've just met suggested I should join some social clubs.
You can see that these are the sentences that have modal verbs. Let's read one by one and analyze each situation. Number 1. The girl says that attending many classes are unnecessary at uni. So she uses the auxiliary verb, don't have to talk about things that are not obligatory. A modal verb that can be used the same is needn't. Number 2. The girl thinks that studying hard is important to herself because they are all new and difficult. Also, there is no external reason such as rules or so. So she used must. Number 3. The girl is talking about external reasons. In this case, it's a school rule. So she uses have to because other people tell her to do that. And number 4. The girl is talking about something that is obligatory. So she used need. And number 5, the senior student is making her a suggestion and an advice, so she uses should. Alright, let's briefly review them together. When we talk about necessity or obligations, we use have to and must. If you think something is important to do, you use must. If it's a rule, and someone tells you to do, you use have to. When we talk about advice or suggestions, we use should. And when we talk about ability or possibility, we use can. When we talk about actions that are not compulsory, we use needn't or don't have to. Now, let's look at another part of the previous email and fill in the blanks using the given words. I'll give you 1 minute. Alright, it's time to check your answer. Number 1, you can see that uniforms are not necessary, so it's needed. Number 2, there's an external reason, so it's have to. Number 3, the speaker thinks ID card is important, so she reminds herself by saying mustn't. Number 4, it talks about ability, so it's can't. Number 5, the speaker talks about the possibility used in a wish sentence, so it's could. That's all about modal verbs. Let's move on with another grammar point that you'll find helpful in university context. It's relative clauses. Let's have a look at this conversation.
Hey, can you see the young man? He is standing in front of the school cafeteria.
He's just won the first prize in an international competition. He's holding a bunch of flowers. The bunch of flowers looks familiar.
Oh, I saw our homeschool teacher holding it this morning.
Really? Perhaps that's the present our homeschool teacher wanted to give him.
In the previous conversation, the boy and the girl are talking about a young man and a bunch of flowers. They have to say in 2 sentences to describe. Are there any ways we can shorten that description? I think we do. Let's try with the first one. The young man is a person, so to connect the 2 sentences, we need a relative pronoun. In this case, it's who. The sentence will be, can you see the young man who is standing in front of the school cafeteria? We use the relative pronoun who to refer to people and sometimes pet animals. The present is an object, so to connect the 2 sentences, we need a relative pronoun, and in this case, it's which. The sentence will be, he's holding a bunch of flowers, which looks familiar. We use the relative pronoun which to refer to objects and animals. We also have the relative pronoun that. It's pretty powerful because it can replace who and which sometimes, which means that can be useful to refer to both things and people, but only defining relative clauses. Let's look back at the 2 sentences. We can both use that to refer to the young man and the bunch of flowers. So the sentences will be changed into, can you see the young man that is standing in front of the school cafeteria? He's holding a bunch of flowers that look familiar. Alright, let's do a small exercise to see if you get it. I'll give you 2 to 3 minutes. Let's start. Let's check the answer. Number 1, the man is a person, so it's who. Number 2, the article is a thing, so it's which. Number 3, the subject is she, a person, so it's who. Number 4 and 5, language and textbooks are things, so it's that. Number 6, it's a bit tricky because we don't see any nouns before it. Someone borrowed Mike's textbooks, so only people can perform that action. It's who. Number 7, quite similar. The first one means the first person, so it's who. Number 8, it's which, because that can only be used in defining relative clauses. For example, in this sentence, if we remove the final part, we still know what to do. That final part only adds more information. Did you get 8 out of 8? That's all about relative pronouns for people and things. What about relative pronouns for time and places? Now, let's have a look at these sentences and do a small activity. Each of these sentences will refer to a place or time. Can you guess which sentence is referring to a place and which one refers to time? Now, let's check together. Number 1, 4, and 5 are referring to places because you can see terms like university, plates. As for number 4, the place is omitted, but still, it's referring to a place. Number 2, 3, and 6 are referring to times. As you can see, terms like Tuesday, 2020, and moments. So, thanks to the hints, we know what relative pronouns to use when we want to make it clear which times or place we're talking about. If the subject or object is referring to a place, we use where to connect it with the relative clause. If the subject or object is referring to times, we use when to connect it with the relative clause. Next, we're going to do a small exercise where you're going to rewrite the sentences using where or when. Let's take some minutes and pause the video if you need to. Alright, time's up. Before we check, let's do a small step first. Let's underline all the key information so that we know which one it is referring to, places or times. Ta-da! Let's have a look. In number 1, 3, 6, and 8, the underlined words indicate places, so we should use the relative pronoun where to rewrite. In number 2, 4, 5, and 7, the underlined words indicate times, so we should use the relative pronoun when to rewrite. Let's look at the sentence again. Okay, did you remember in lesson 1, I have mentioned students from all over the world. When we want to talk about the people of a particular country, we use nationality adjectives. For example, Vietnam is a country, but if we want to talk about the people of Vietnam, we use Vietnamese. Students from Vietnam are called Vietnamese students, while ones from Italy are called Italian students. Why such difference? And how can we all remember? Don't worry, I'm here to help you out. Let's have a look at this table. There are 3 main weights, and by putting them in groups, we can easily memorize the nationality adjectives. The first group is ish. We have Spain and Spanish, Finland and Finnish, Sweden and Swedish, England and English. The second group is Ease. We have Vietnam and Vietnamese, China and Chinese, Japan and Japanese, Portugal and Portuguese. And the third group is Ian. We have Italy and Italian, Russia and Russian, Norway, Norwegian, Egypt and Egyptian. Most of the time, the nationality adjectives don't change completely compared to the country, but there are some exceptions. Let's have a look. Alright, it's time for some exercises. Please, first, look at the flags and put the correct country's name under it. Then, you write its nationality adjective. It's easy peasy. I think you'll do it quick. Take some time to do now, and I'll be back to check your answer. Now, let's check your answer. Number 1, Vietnam, Vietnamese. Number 2, Japan, Japanese. Number 3, Italy, Italian. Number 4, England, English. Number 5, United States, American. Number 6, France, French. Number 7, Sweden, Swedish. And number 8, Korea, Korean. Alright, let's wrap up our lesson with an activity that helps us review all the grammar points we've learned today. There are 8 sentences and each has a mistake. Please find the mistakes and correct them. I'll give you some minutes. Now, let's check the answers. Number 1, everything is fine except for the word in bold. We're talking about a country, not a language or people of that country. It should be France. Number 2, the school is referring to a place, so where? Number 3, it's a rule. And don't have to means unnecessary to do. So it should be mustn't. Number 4, can is wrong because everyone can do that. In this case, the speaker is giving advice. So it must or should. Number 5, the girl is a person. So it should be who. Number 6, the week refers to time, so it should be when. Number 7, we need a nationality adjective, Japanese. And number 8, similarly, we need a nationality adjective, American. Let's look back on what we've gone over today. First, we review how to use modal verbs correctly. Then, we learn to use relative pronouns with who, which, that, where, and when. Finally, we learn about different countries around the world and how to talk about the adjectives for those countries. I hope that these grammar points can help you when you study at an international school or at university. That's all for today. Goodbye, and I'll see you in the upcoming episode.